If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like SimRigs and TrackRacer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Hello everybody and welcome to the third round of the Everything Simulated F4 Championship, supported by Player One Sim Gear. We're here at Phillip Island for the next of our sprint rounds, the second of our sprint rounds. That we've got 5 sprint rounds indeed in this championship season. Second one coming here from Phillip Island after the Ben Motorsports Park, which opened out our season, and the Motegi round, which came next up in the feature race of round number 2. So this is going to be a very exciting one indeed. We certainly saw last week at Motegi, and indeed at the Ben Motorsports Park as well, that slipstreaming so important, and surprisingly around this circuit in these types of cars you get quite a lot of it around here at Phillip Island, which should promote some very close racing indeed. It is myself, Ewan O'Leary, and Jared Cole taking you through the action of 15 minutes of a sprint race after the lone qualifying session, which is just about to get underway, and then a 30-minute feature race a little bit later on. It's good to be back alongside you for this one, Jared. As I say, surprisingly, in this type of car, Phillip Island's a bit of a draft circuit, which I say is surprising, but it means good racing for us, and that's to be looked forward to here in this sprint round tonight.
Great to be back with you again this week, Ewan, and you're spot on. Phillip Island, you wouldn't ordinarily consider a draft circuit at all, but as you say, the F4s really do turn it into one. Don't think for a second, though, that takes away from the difficulty of this circuit. It's one that I personally really enjoy driving, but I'll tell you what, Southern Loop in particular is one of the most complex sort of single radius extended turns that I think you'll find on just about any track anywhere. You find yourself even a little bit over that center line and you're all of a sudden off camber and usually off the circuit. So drivers will need to watch for that. And of course, Lukey Heights, the dip off Lukey Heights into turn 10, one of the more difficult right-hand turns that you'll find anywhere, quite honestly. It's one that has caught me out so many times myself every time I've driven this track. And it's for that reason that I absolutely loved coming to Phillip Island. The challenge is a little unlike anything else. So really looking forward to seeing the drivers out there tonight.
Absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun. As you may know, if you've seen the Super Formula Light series before, the rules get a little bit different when we have two races. No safety cars in the first race of 15 minutes, no matter what happens, but the 30-minute feature may well have one, and that's a race also that requires fuel, by the way, unlike the sprint race. So it's a little bit different in that the feature races, we have 2 stops nowadays in both the Super Formula Light series and the F4 Championship as well. That is also the case in the F4s if we have 45 minutes, but for the sprint races it's just the one stop in the 30-minute race. You can go through the whole sprint race though without needing any fuel at all, which does make things a little bit more simple. As you can see there, the starting fuel 14 litres only. That'll be enough to see you through 15 minutes in the sprint race just fine. As I say, we're just into qualifying at the moment, but let's in the meantime tell you about the championship standings, which are pretty clear anyway as far as who's leading them. Benjamin Roberts has dominated this season so far, 3 pole positions and 3 race wins as well. Ocean Colangelo has got 2 second places and all finishing positions inside the top 5, which has got her into second ahead of Thomas Hinz, who's third after his podium last week. No podium for Danny Davison actually, but he's up to 4th ahead of Daniel Byrne, who then rounds out the top 5. It's pretty clear who's dominating this season so far, but Benjamin Roberts, after winning the first 3 rounds, might have expected a bit better of a points gap than just 39 points, which he's got at the moment.
Yeah, it's funny. It really does take a little while to build that gap, regardless of how dominating your performances have been. And take nothing away from Ocean Colangelo. She's been doing a great job in trying to hang with Ben. So really interesting to see what she can deliver here at Phillip Island, being, again, back in Australia, maybe a little more of a home circuit for her. I'm actually not sure just how comfortable she is around here. But I guess we'll see a bit of that tonight. It's probably worth mentioning as well, Ewan, that tonight we'll see the first of the gold-silver split action happening on track. So the drivers being tiered essentially according to pace. And if you've seen our last couple of broadcasts, you will notice tonight that the gold drivers are carrying the gold mirrors and the gold air intake just under the camera over their heads on those cars, and silver, of course, on the silver drivers. Plus, we do have a few new drivers joining us tonight who haven't yet been actually ranked, so you'll see them just getting about in their usual liveries for this evening.
And actually, we've got quite a few new drivers out on the field here today. And I didn't notice that actually from round one as well. Not many of the drivers so far, although we have had, 31 drivers score points so far. You know, we're in the low 20s as far as an entry went for last week's race. But in the very high 20s this time round, Patrick Savina and Angus Milner, the last two to make their way out for a lap time actually at the moment, or indeed set a lap time, but they're definitely trying, and that means that we've got 29 in this session at the moment. That is very, very encouraging indeed, that the F4 Championship is being taken up ever more and more and more. I think the Super Formula Lights Championship may remain the most popular, and that's fine, but the F4 Championship certainly growing in popularity here, and this is a proper entry for this race at 29 drivers for this second sprint round.
Yeah, I was almost a little concerned, I'll be honest, that we would not have enough cars to actually fill the front straight of Phillip Island. It's a pretty big and spread out starting grid here on the island, and look, when we're getting up into the high 20s in terms of number of people who have made the trek out here today, it is actually going to look pretty good on the starting line. I'm looking forward to it, and certainly will be very, very interesting as we get through turn one and into Southern Loop for the first time. If they're not into that racing single file by that point, look, it's been a while since I've taken an F4 around here, I'll be honest. Usually a supercar or a GT4 myself. But I'm really interested to see just how the downforce allows drivers to potentially make a pass around the outside of Southern Loop. It's not something you'd ever try on a tin top.
No, and I do find racing around here very, very different to what you see in open wheels versus tin top, and I'm not sure that there's a circuit in the world that I can think of where it changes so much compared to what category you're in. I'll see if that opinion changes at the end of tonight, because after all, I've only seen F3 racing around here. I'm not imagining this is going to be very different. F4 racing, slightly slower, but not much, and yeah, it's very, very different to GT racing or whatever it is. V8 supercar racing obviously goes around here fairly regularly as well, so it's going to be an interesting watch, that is for sure. But qualifying just seems to have drawn to a close, and we are ready to go just about. So let's bring up that starting grid, starting with Cape Ryder, who's taken pole position away from Benjamin Roberts for the first time this season here tonight. Oisin Colangelo and Alexi Watson, the silver pole sitter, up in fourth place, and Brody McConkie not yet assigned a class ahead of Rishabh Banerjee. It is Dan Ackland and Madeline McGee on row 4, ahead of Thomas Hinz and Vaughan Ryder, who round out the top 10. David Besnard is then in 11th ahead of Todd Parks. Daniel Byrne and Nico Mendes are on row 7 ahead of Dylan De Bono and Stephen Bull. Tom Donahue is alongside Justin McLaren, with Scott Pocock and Ian Zhu, another one of those unassigned drivers, rounding out the top 20. Seth Burkotts is next at halfway, with Ryan Borg and Miguel Terezia in 24th. Sam Kakazinos and Ben Ryder, the first driver over a second off pole. Angus Mill next set of William Fraser, with Patrick Savina, the last driver not to get a lap time in. Obviously Jimmy Pace, co-driver. As always, we will hopefully not be seeing him over the course of this evening. Interesting that Benjamin Roberts has not got pole for the first time this season. That's pretty much his first dropped points all season as well, which is pretty impressive in itself.
He might be human after all, Ewan. You never know.
Apparently he is.
Apparently. Look, he's not far off it though, is he? Really, it's barely off the pole as you see him lined up just behind Kane Ryder at the front row of the grid. There's not a great deal in it, so we'll see how he goes here off the front row at least.
Well, yeah, he is. He is still up there, that's for sure. Not too much panic, but he's not on pole, so that is the notable thing to come out of that one. It's Kane Ryder instead, who's 6th place in the standings coming into this race, by the way, having just scored one podium. That came in the feature race at the Bend Motorsports Park. We'll see whether he can do it maybe in the sprint race here at Phillip Island. It's going to be a 15-minute dash. Donahue doesn't seem to be getting onto the grid, it looks like, for this one, unfortunately. So he will start from pit lane, if at all, as the lights come on here from Phillip Island. And we are ready to go racing for the first race of the day as they now get underway down in towards turn number 1 for the first time. Kane Ryder getting the inside line ahead of Roberts, who's just about on his outside, and he's going to have to go all the way round here to get himself the inside line ready for the left-hander, the big left-hander, which comes at turn 2, and he is going to get that lead. Maybe that was his plan all along. Start on the outside road, get round the outside of turn 1, inside of turn 2, and he's in the lead already.
Didn't take long at all for Roberts to establish himself out in front. Kane Ryder, though, still challenging. This is going to be a very, very tricky one into this hairpin. Very dangerous. Thankfully, all the drivers making it to this point, but almost contact there between Roberts and Ryder as they make their way through for the first time. And indeed, we've got the first of the collisions for the night. Pocock, Hathaway, and Katakazinas all caught up in that.
That was always expected. It always seems to happen down there at turn number 4. Seems to be the place where it starts to kick off, but thankfully for the top 22, they have all gotten away cleanly. Now, message from race control, mistake with session setter. I did notice that it said only 5 minutes up at the top left-hand side of the screen. Unsure what race control are going to do about that, but anyway, the guys are continuing on racing anyway. It's going to be a very short dash then to the end of this one, with only probably 4 laps able to be crammed into those 5 minutes so far as they now come through the final corner. And this is where the drafting track part of this that I mentioned earlier really comes into it. And Oisin Colangelo has got the double toe here and might be able to make it 3 wide. We're nearly seeing 3 wide back in the pack, as you can see here over the line. But what does Colangelo do? What does Robertson and Ryder do? Ryder goes straight through. Benjamin Roberts shoved to the... and off in the background. McConkey and Banerjee have both got off.
That was a huge incident. I don't know what's happened to Banerjee. I don't know what's caused him to go flying off like that. Let's go back and take a quick look, because I have absolutely no clue how they've managed to go off at that sort of pace.
That was really fast in towards turn 1, because this is a fast corner. But how did this happen? He's very tight up on the inside. Oh, there's a slight bit of contact, and then they sort of take each other down the road there into the gravel. Brody McConkey, one of the other ones, actually got a podium in the Super Formula Lights on Tuesday, but won't be getting a podium here in this first race of the day, that's for sure. Just crowding each other out of road effectively down there at turn 1.
Yeah, once those wheels lifted, just no ability to brake whatsoever. That was a big one. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what we're going to do with this race timer, and indeed just how hard Ryder and Colangelo are going to push here to, I assume, pick up the full points from a shortened race.
Well, you say that. I was just about to say, I maybe suspect that because it's only 5 minutes, they might let this race result stand, but at a reduced points. Oh dear me, that's 3 wide off the final corner here. What's going to happen down towards turn 1 with these guys? They would have fit 4 wide, I think, if this track would allow for it, but I'm not sure they can quite fit. So they all go in side by side a little bit more orderly as they fight for 8th place. Meanwhile, Benjamin Roberts gets his lead back again. This is a real short taster of what we're going to see here later on tonight in the longer 30-minute race. As I say, I think this race result's going to stand, but maybe the reduced points for a sprint race might be reduced even further because of the reduced distance.
It's all about reductions here tonight, isn't it? That's what we're here to do.
Looks like it. It's a mistake, as race control said, but these things do happen. It just means we're going to have a little bit longer between the races as well, because the second session should be scheduled for 10 minutes after this time than what it is. Madeline McGee goes off the road, meanwhile, from second in the silver class, just in the background. I think that's what those plumes of dust and smoke were all about in the background of that shot, as Benjamin Roberts leads them over Lukey Heights. The white flag will be seen next time round, and I think he's going to have a real difficult shot at keeping the lead down at turn 1, that's for sure.
That was so close there. Nico Mendes just sneaking through on Daniel Byrne, who very wisely backed out of that. They were about to go wheel to wheel through Lukey Heights, and was not going to end well at all. As we see Kane Ryder and Ben Roberts swapping positions again. Ryder up the inside of the final turn as we come towards the line, and sure enough we will see the white flag out here. 3 wide,
that's Richard
turn 1
again. Sorry, yeah, to 3 wide. I should be looking at really the leader battle, and it's Ocean Colangelo who gets the lead on the inside line. Now, can she hold it with Kane Riders? Just on the inside, a bit of a snap from Roberts there. Very nearly went off the road. It's very easy to do at turn 2, but not quite. The top 6 all covered by nothing at all as they battle for the race win here. Colangelo has the lead, but can she hold it on this last lap of race 1?
Well, thankfully, she's got a teammate there to just try and hold Ben Roberts at bay. This might be a Team Max Boost 1-2 if they can keep this up. Big lock-up, though, from Ryder as they push hard through the hairpin into Siberia, this corner as well. Another of the tricky ones to negotiate here at this circuit. Ben Roberts all over the back of Kane Ryder. There's not much left in this. Can he make a move and pick up an extra spot?
Next session will be skipped. 5-minute race becomes sprint. Proceed to the second serve after this race is what is being told by race control, as that's a big dive from Robertson. Kane Ryder, all of this helping, as you say, the Team Max Boost cars maybe take a 1-2 here. A bit of a lock-up from Ocean Colangelo. I think he was out front, but it looks like she's going to take the win here. In the top 5 in every single race so far this season. That's going to continue with this performance at Phillip Island. The gap she's got should be enough to hold it to the line, even though Roberts is showing that you don't have to be in front by the final corner to win here. As they run up towards the line, it's a photo finish for second behind Ocean Colangelo, who becomes the first driver other than Benjamin Roberts to win a race this season in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship. Kane Ryder and Roberts finish on the podium as well, with Alexi Watson, by the way, getting involved as a silver driver. He will take that class victory, but it's the first win of the season for Colangelo and a first win for somebody not who is Benjamin Roberts.
What a finish, and we had a bunch of very, very tight races all the way to the end there. Ryan Borg getting home in 10th by only 0.08 behind Dylan DeBono. The nothing in it there. A 0.02 finish for Madeline McGee in 13th. That was a very, very close one indeed. We will have to try and figure out what is going to go on with these race results. But for the moment, we will assume full points for this sprint, which means we should have the points for you in just a moment as we wait for the last of the cars to cross the line.
William Fraser has got a 10-second time penalty as well for not leaving enough racing room. So a couple of penalties coming through meantime as we have a look at the race results. Do excuse us if the session starts to go a bit wonky. Ocean Colangelo,
the points will not be recorded because of the issues with this session setup. So we'll have to figure that one out, I think.
Do some I will do some personal maths in a moment, but that could go wrong. Anyway, we'll leave that for a second. Ocean Colangelo, though, first of all, has taken this race win. A quarter of a second ahead of Kane Ryder, who showed that if you're leading at the final corner, it's not necessarily that you're going to finish in front. Benjamin Roberts gave him a real go there, but finishes third ahead of Alexi Watson, who wins in silver. Dan Ackland and Thomas Hinz were also involved in that, by the way, in that race. Then it was Nico Mendes, Daniel Byrne, Dylan DeBono, and Ryan Borg rounded out the top 10. Borg only just in front of Todd Parks, actually, the Synergy Sim Racing driver. David Pesnard finished in 12th for Madeline McGee, who had that late spin for Team Max Boost, alongside two teammates, actually, for her, Vaughan Ryder and Ben Ryder. It was Angus Milne to finish just outside the top 15, with Tristan McLaren in 17th place. Manuel Texera, Stephen Bull and Patrick Savina will be rounding out the top 20. Do excuse the lights coming on there, by the way. There are some people who are actually out there. Oh, only Patrick Savina has not got the memo, so he's on there on his own. But anyway, he finished in 20th place anyway to round out the top 20 from this one. So Colangelo gained 6 points on Kane Ryder and 11 on Benjamin Roberts, who at the very least will see that gap come down to 28 points now at the front of this championship. First time he's not finished on pole this season, first time he's not won as well.
Yeah, it's a very different set of results to what we have been seeing. I mean, Ben Roberts still up amongst it. Ocean Colangelo having a great result thanks to the help from Kane Ryder can't be mistaken there at all. That's got to have thrown the drivers a little bit. It's certainly thrown me in terms of what we were expecting from a first race. So hopefully the race admin can get it all sorted out, and we'll have a bit of work to, I suppose, just smooth things out afterwards. But I am assured that our feature server is set up, ready to go, and the drivers making their way across there now.
They've got a little bit more time than usual as well, because normally it's quite a tight squeeze actually from the first server to the second, so normally we'd be throwing straight to a break and rushing as quickly as we can, because the open qualifying will be beginning fairly shortly. We are going to do that now though, as I just had it confirmed from Jimmy Peacock. It's to be confirmed whether 4 points will be allowed, but he says it's likely to be sprint points as normal, so the ones that you can see on your screen at the moment, likely to be awarded, even though the race distance was just 5 minutes. We'll come back with the second race though in a couple of moments time, as we take on the fourth round of the Everything Simulated F4 Championship, the feature race of half an hour coming up in a moment's time.
If you love the thrill of racing but hate the risks, then buckle up. Everything Simulated is here to merge adrenaline with absolute safety. In a world where technology meets adrenaline, Everything Simulated is revolutionizing driver training with state-of-the-art simulators. From truck training to the thrill of motorsports, our simulators offer the most realistic experiences across all automotive applications. Gone are the days of endless bookwork and basic drills. Now it's all about hands-on, pulse-pounding action that prepares you for the real deal. Whether you're maneuvering a heavy mining vehicle or racing a high-speed car, our simulators, equipped with cutting-edge technology from leaders like SimRigs and TrackRacer, bring every nuance of the drive to life. And talk about making a mark. We're not just building simulators, we're fostering talent. From grassroots motorsports to professional series like the Aussie Outlaw GT3, sponsored by us, Everything Simulated is fueling dreams and careers. Ready to feel the excitement of the racetrack under your fingertips? Connect with us, and let's build your next simulator adventure together. Remember, we support those who support us. Join the Everything Simulated family, and let's race towards the future.
Welcome back to Phillip Island, where we are ready to go for race number 2, or at least we are in 10 minutes time also, with the next to the practice sessions, or qualifying sessions rather, and then the 30-minute feature race to come a little bit later on. In case you're only just joining us, we in these sprint rounds have a 15-minute sprint race and a 30-minute feature race, or at least that's what normally happens. Only this time we had a 5-minute sprint race due to a mistake in the setting up of the server. And Tom Donahue will decide when the sessions are complete here tonight, so we'll likely have to come back next week and inform you what they'll do with the points. But for now, we're going with the sprint points that will have been awarded from that first race of the day. And it shows that Oisin Colangelo has taken her first race victory of the season, and it's the first race victory of somebody who is not Benjamin Roberts, which was an event in itself. But yeah, a rather strange one. Shorter race than we expected to find, but yeah, that's all fine. We certainly got a very quick taste of what we're going to get in this 30-minute race to come.
And if some of those incidents are anything to go by, Phillip Island delivering pretty well what I expected. Some very, very high-speed moments. People flying off the track at turn 1 as we are about to get underway with open qualifying. I think this should be an interesting case of whether or not we actually will see a safety car here tonight. Based on that first 5 minutes, I think it's almost inevitable. We saw drivers 3 and 4 wide into turn 1. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit how much you trust these guys to keep those battles clean, although I did see a lot of racing, like that in race 1. I don't think I necessarily saw the kind of incident that might bring out a safety car. I mean, we did have that big fly-off down towards turn 1, but generally what actually disables these cars and means effectively that they actually can't take the tow and, can't drive back and have to take the tow is generally contact with the barrier, and I think round here, certainly in most places, the barrier is quite far away from the racetrack. So I'm going to put my money on the line that there's going to be no safety car tonight. We'll see who's correct on that one. But this is going to be the story in qualifying. And this is going to be one of the more interesting qualifying sessions we watched this season, actually. How do you jockey for the draft? Who do you get it off? What space do you leave? So much to think about. So much more than just driving fast, which is normally what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And open qualifying always is just a completely different a different scenario to lone qualifying. Certainly my preference is always for open qualifying, particularly where you're racing in cars that do have a significant amount of aero, because it does allow you to just be a little bit cheeky at times in where you find your extra tenths. And if you time your runs, get the tyres up to temp. We saw it from Ben Roberts last week, didn't we? Really just spent his time getting the tyre temps up and put in an absolute cracker of a lap at the last moment when no one had anything left in the tank, essentially, to try and match it or indeed beat that time.
I think I agree, by the way, on the point of open qualifying. I think it's much better to have that. And yeah, I think NASCAR should do ovals on open qualifying, to be honest.
Can you imagine?
Controversial that for any Americans listening at this time in the early morning over there, but yeah, that's what I would like to see. Anyway, but thankfully in road racing, anyway, we do get that on a regular basis, and it's great to watch. There's a bit of a lock-up going down in towards turn 4, by the way, but all getting away with it. Fastest lap so far, fastest first sector rather, from Dylan de Bono in 111, who is, I think, at the back end of this little group here. He's just in behind Miguel Teixeira. There he is de Bono, but is he a little bit too close? This is where the tactics really come into it. He's getting a lovely bit of slipstream, but is he now too close as they get into the final sector here?
Yeah, and he's tucked in almost immediately behind Ian Zhu, who put in a very, very quick lap before. Interesting to see Miguel for Proline Esports, and with apologies to Miguel, I'm going to have to wrap my head around your surname before I try to pronounce it. He's back a little bit from this group, but actually tucked in, and you can see him actually tucked in right in the middle of it at the moment, in fact. Getting the best of the slipstream there, but Dylan de Bono about to cross the line behind him should jump a fair way up the leaderboard, and indeed up to second. Ben Roberts, though, he's not waiting around to set those times this week, is he?
No, he is. He's getting up there immediately and up to second, and now this becomes very, very difficult indeed for de Bono. He is definitely too close now. He's going to have to hope that some of them pull out the way. Although notice that even with the unpredictability of the slipstream, the same big names come to the top. Rishabh Banerjee is maybe the surprise package leading at the moment, but Oshin Colangelo, who just won that first race, is only 15,000 behind. Ben Roberts is there as well, looking to take his fourth pole in 5 races here this season. De Bono's always up there. McGee was in the first race. Her late spin in race 1 taking away a little bit from her race result, but she's up there again in this qualifying session. It's remarkable how even in unpredictable conditions the best rise to the top.
Yeah, absolutely, and we see Ben Roberts out again, already improving his sector 1, although a little bit slower through sector 2. This turn 10, that right-hander, very, very tough to nail it time after time, so it'll be interesting to see whether he's got a little less of the track used than he probably intended there, but just a few more seconds to see if he can climb back at leaderboard, if he's going to be starting from the second row. We've still got about half this qualifying session left to run. Doesn't look like quite as quick that time around for Ben Roberts, or is this another play as we saw last week where he'll just spend his time getting the temps up slowly at this point rather than running them up, although getting well out of the way of some cars on their flying laps now.
I mean, you see it week after week, don't you? Qualifying impeding... What's the phrase? I can't remember. Impeding qualifying? Something like that. Anyway, you get what I mean. It's a feature every week, and these drivers are desperate not to get a penalty for it. And that is close to doing exactly what I was talking about there. Exactly about avoiding the conky there. Very nearly got drove straight into by somebody off the circuit. I mean, it's slightly odd to see these guys off the circuit trying to stay out of people's way, but you can absolutely understand why they don't want to do it. They don't want to get in people's way. It's a pretty hefty penalty for that in this series as well. A pit lane start if you're found to be impeding somebody else in qualifying.
Yeah, it's not something you want to run even the risk of being seen to do because of the extreme penalty. Pit lane start in most cars is not a great time, but particularly in the F4s where there's so little power in them compared to the Super Formula Lights and some of the other open wheelers, starting that far back, not being in the slipstream right from the green light can be absolutely devastating to race chances. So not hard to understand why we're seeing drivers actually throwing their cars off the track to make sure they're out of the way of people on a hot lap.
Yeah, it's quite dramatic, but you can understand it. Certainly, this is Ocean Colangelo with a little bit less slipstream than when we last caught up with it. She now pulls through to the final corner, and you're going to go in pit lane there because this is not really where you want to be honest, on your own. Teammates are helping each other further up front, and Manny McGee is going to set a huge lap here by the looks of it. Is it going to be any better though? Yeah, just a little bit, and moves ahead to Thunder Bono. That is a silver class driver in 4th place, and don't forget Alexi Watson qualified about there in lone qualifying earlier on. So the silver class drivers are absolutely not much slower than the golds at all. 4th place now for both of these qualifying sessions for the leading silver.
Yeah, and look, at being the first week of the classes, it's entirely likely that we'll see a little bit of adjustment to that over the course of the season, but certainly showing that, broadly speaking, they're pretty well matched at the moment. But yeah, I can tell you that Madeline McGee was flagged before the race in my conversation with the league admins as one that they're looking at because a lot more pace from McGee than perhaps they were initially expecting to see. Certainly an impressive showing so far in this open qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. As we just get into the last couple of minutes now of this session, where are the better lap times going to come from? We've not seen very much purple and green down the bottom of your screen. There's a bit green there for the Bono. Goes over the line. Not sure that's going to be an improvement quite. It's close, but not quite. Takes as much slipstream as he can down towards turn 1, and a load of cars that have just stopped on the right-hand side there, letting everybody else through. Rishabh Banerjee has decided to take the opportunity just to come into the pit lane, 4 laps down, and well, that's the end of it for him. He's decided that enough is enough, and at the moment he might be right. That lap time might well be enough for pole position, but a strange strategy to just in the pit lane in the last 2 minutes as a way to defend your current position.
Well, I suppose you set a time like that. I mean, every driver has a pretty good idea of what a quick time is around any given circuit. As we see Ryan Borg just running a little wide out of Southern Loop. It's once you get close to that sort of time, I mean, I don't know. Do you park it up and just enjoy the fact that you're going to be up on the front row pretty well no matter what anyone else does? Seems a little unlikely.
It does. I don't know about that myself, to be honest. But there you go. He's decided to do it. It might well work out at the moment as we look at Sam Kokadinos here. And in 22nd, does seem that we're missing somebody, by the way, who hasn't transferred from first session to second. It's not Patrick Savina, though, who was on the grid at the start of that second race, by the way, in the other server, I've got to say. But for some reason, he is here. Somebody else is not. So we'll try and work out who that is. But I think that's going to be a very difficult task.
Yeah, when we've got an almost 30-car grid, I'm sure someone's missing here, but I'm trying to pick it.
I think we've got very little chance of figuring it out, to be honest. But there you go. Sam Kakadino comes towards the line now. He's not improved in any of his sectors. Very close for Teixeira through turn number 1 as he trails somebody here. As the time now elapses, for whatever reason, very early on in this session, the laps all came in, everybody set times, and then after that, it seemed nobody's been able to improve.
Well, look, good to get a few extra laps of practice and familiarisation in, given the shorter length of the sprint race than what a lot of these drivers are expecting. It's not going to hurt to see into a big moment locking up the front tyres and a bit of tyre smoke off those, so probably not on track for a quick lap after that. But, you know, there's still time. Although the time for qualifying at the very least is up, so these drivers will get to finish their hot lap and then we will be getting ready to grid for the feature race this evening. A lot of support for, we've got a bunch of the team from Proline Esports have actually joined the racing tonight. Brady McConkey and Miguel in amongst them. Ryan Borg as well in there. So good to see a bit of a showing of support in the chat. A big hello to Mr. A. Willie, Tommy Zero. G'day, Adam. Hope you're all enjoying the coverage so far. Bit of a shorter race first time around than we were hoping to bring you, but this one I'm sure will make up for it in spades.
Absolutely. We are almost ready to go, although the final lap times are just coming through at the moment. Pit lane start. Oh, there it is. Rishabh Banerjee has got a pit lane start.
Wow.
And that is massive news for this race. We saw it in the Super Formula Light Series actually only a week or two ago, where the pole sitter had to start from pit lane. Harrison Dusky it was on that occasion. Rishabh Banerjee the one on this occasion. Maybe he realised he'd made that mistake and thought, you know, better not risk any further by going out there again. Kane Ryder, by the way, just moved up to second as well. He's only 1,000th off pole, but effectively he will be on pole because Banerjee has to start from the pit lane.
Yeah, I mean, that would explain parking it up, wouldn't it? That's, I thought maybe I was on the money, but no, Kane Ryder has set a very quick time in that last-ditch effort, basically matching Banerjee's time down to at least the 100th of a second, 1,000th off Banerjee's time. So Ryder a well-deserved effective pole start as Alexi Watson comes in to complete the last lap that they're going to be able to get a run on. Sam Katakzinos, I'm not sure is actually on the move out there at any great pace, but we'll check in on the way down. No, just coming out of Southern Loop. I was going to say, didn't think that Sam would manage to sneak that one in, and sure enough, we are just about ready to get underway for the feature race tonight.
Nico Mendes just getting also word through of qualifying impeding, so he will have to start from pit lane as well. As will Rishabh Banerjee, who has taken the pole but will have to start from pit lane. So Kane Ryder will start effectively on the pole for the second time tonight, ahead of Oisin Colangelo, race 1 winner, and Benjamin Roberts, championship leader. Madeline McGee and Dylan Bono are on row 3 at Miguel Teixeira and Brody McConkie, with Daniel Byrne and Ryan Borg rounding out the top 10. It's Todd Parks and Thomas Hinds on row 6 at Vaughan Ryder and Daniel Ackland. Nico Mendes will also have to start from pit lane and not 15th place, alongside Alexia Watson. Tristan McLaren and Stephen Bull will share row 9 ahead of Seth Burkhardt and Tom Donoghue, who round out the top 20. David Persnard will be next ahead of Sam Katakzinos, with Ian Dew and Mitchell halfway. Angus Milne and Ben Ryder on row 13 ahead of William Fraser and Patrick Savina. And for whatever reason, we're missing somebody. We're never going to work out who it is. Jimmy Peacock will hopefully not be required with the safety car here today. I'm going to put my money on the line that he will not be required. You've already expressed a slight tendency to go towards that we will see a safety car in this next half an hour. Whether we do or not, it's going to be a very, very exciting half an hour of racing indeed.
And look, it's no fun if we agree up here in the booth on what's likely to happen, is it? Ultimately, there's got to be a bit of contrast, but look, I actually don't think it'll be the contact with the walls to worry about. The thing with Phillip Island, and I've seen it happen before, is cars flying off turn 1, and particularly in a car like an F4, the amount of grip that you lose over the grass and through the kiddie litter just outside turn 1. You can see it just on the left of picture there. You'll see cars actually keep going and fly off the small drop-off that drops them onto the straight on the other side of Southern Loop. It's rare, but if it's ever going to happen, I reckon tonight could be it after we saw Banerjee go flying off turn 1 earlier. I'm calling it'll be turn 1 that brings on a safety car.
Okay, we'll see whether it does or not.
Perhaps a big call, but you know.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. I think I've got faith in these guys to make it through. But let's see. As the gridding process now begins, if you're wondering why it's taking a while, we get 3 minutes in the gridding normally in this series rather than just 2, just to give everybody a little bit more of a chance to get onto the grid. Unfortunately for Banerjee and for Mendes, they're not going to get that chance. They will come out the pit lane in 27th and 28th at the front of this field. Again, it's Team Max Boost who have got the front of the field mobbed at the moment, and Madeline McGee actually coming up to join them this time round as well. I wonder if she's just been towed along a little bit by Slipstream in that qualifying session, but then again, she will be in the race as well, which of course will carry a pit stop as well. Can be taken any time from lap 1, we believe anyway, or at least in the notes that we've been very kindly given, up to lap 13 maybe they could go on fuel before having to make their pit stop of the day. So let's see, as the lights now do come on and we are ready to go racing, with Banerjee and Mendes both having to start from pit lane. It's Kane Ryder who will effectively be on the pole as we're underway for half an hour of racing here at Phillip Island, and Kane Ryder immediately pulls over to the right hand side there of Oisin Colangelo, who has just taken second, and they get even into single file in fact ahead of Benjamin Roberts. That's a good use of the slipstream from the Team Max Boost drivers. All of them single file into 2 as it's down the inside. Dylan Tabono on Middle and McGee. Immediately he wanted to make up places, and he has made up 1 up into 4th position.
A big dive there into Southern Loop, and really the door left wide open by Madeline McGee for that move. Just a little bit too much pace perhaps on the cold tyres into Southern Loop as we make our way through the Honda hairpin for the first time, and you can see already as that Vaughan rider, Dan Ackland, flying off the outside. Drivers just a little too soon to push the limits of these tyres before they get the temps up.
Ackland was certainly the one who went down the field on that occasion. Ben Ryder also seems to be off the track, might be at Siberia, or maybe earlier actually. He's behind Banerjee and Mendes, who have already made up 2 places each because of the issues for those at the back end of the field. Now across Lukey Heights and down on the downhill braking zone for turn 10 here for these leaders. Now these guys are going to be careful. This is a gap opening up in front of Brodie McConkie at the moment, and if they want to stay in touch with the leaders, they need to get organised, but they're not, and the top 5 are racing away.
A big moment there on the way out of Lukey Heights for Brodie McConkie, just really struggling to get the power down. I noticed just while we've been looking at this, Stephen Bull from Rapid Team Rennsport picking up a meatball very, very early on. And while not a massive incident, I think just an off-track that seems to have done a significant amount of damage to the car, so being called in to have some repairs done.
So real shame for him. He's driven round to the end of the lap, which is a suggestion of a bit of bad luck there, really, that he's got a meatball and had to come in, because otherwise he would have persevered. Luckily, he has got a fast repair, and indeed he can pit on lap 1 and make it to the end, so he won't be completely out of it by any means. As we come down now in towards turn 4, this is where it gets tricky. Oh, and there's a lock-up and a spin indeed as well. Oh dear, Tom Park goes around. Daniel Byrne went too deep. It was always going to happen down at turn 4. There was always going to be something happen there.
And a big one into Siberia as well. Vaughan rider off the track.
I'm not sure who that was actually with. It looked like he made contact with somebody to end up out there, but didn't say who it was from that vision there into Siberia. Certainly a lot going on in these opening couple of laps, that is for sure. Milne and Zhu go side by side meantime over the top of the hill and down on the brakes, late on the brakes and off in the background there as well. That's Fraser. Yeah, actually Fraser's got a 5-second time penalty as well for leaving insufficient racing room already.
Yeah, early days, but you can get a feel for just how hard these drivers are pushing. And as we go up front, you can see it's continuing for P1. Ryder, Colangelo and Roberts still absolutely locked in. The train makes its way through turn 1 down towards Southern Loop. Ben Roberts not yet finding a way to break through the Team Max Boost stranglehold on that front couple of positions. Dylan De Bono almost looking a little impatient behind, just weaving side to side, trying to find a way to get alongside Roberts before the hairpin. This is going to be very, very interesting if De Bono does start to push hard.
It will be, but Roberts now defends the inside line again, and that said to me there that De Bono didn't quite want to actually go through on the outside there, just sort of showing the nose. And the bigger problem, I think, is the 2 teammates at the front of this group. The 2 teammates at the front, I think it could be quite difficult to actually get ahead of one or either both of them here around this circuit, such a draft circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how they can split that up, if they can at all, as we go back to the battle that William Fraser is involved in. Richard Banerjee trying to work his way through this after qualifying on pole, starting from the pit lane. They've all gained a place now. Unfortunately, Thomas Hinz seems to have dropped out from the server.
Well, that's 2 down. I'm still trying to figure out who that extra person was that we've lost you on. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point, but probably too late. This battle, though, side by side, one of the beautiful things about Phillip Island is, as difficult it is actually a fairly wide track the whole way around, so it is possible to go side by side through most of this track. And these drivers using absolutely every inch of it at the moment. We go back up front, though, because again, Ryder, Colangelo, Roberts, all so tight on the outside of turn 1. De Bono still hanging in there. Not a move being made yet, but Ben Roberts really biding his time. I'm wondering if we're going to see perhaps a slightly early pit stop if Roberts can't get through in the next lap or 2 to just get out from behind Ryder and Colangelo and the Team Max Boost entries out in front. Maybe he's just looking to pop into the pits and give himself some clean air to try for the overcut.
Yeah, let's see about early pit stops. I think, you know, the longer they leave it here, that the more that other traffic's going to come into play, and I think that's going to be a real killer. If you do get involved in it, you get involved in another group, sucked into that battle, then you'll be going slower and you'll be in a bit of trouble, I think. So yeah, that's not ideal. Side by side, meantime, around Siberia, or Fraser and Parks, Todd Parks, who gets that place ahead of William Fraser with that 5-second time penalty. Unfortunately for him, there's a real now concerted chase in Group 2, by the way, I'll call it, from 6th place on backwards. Another 5-car group, which there are a number of at the moment. There goes Richard Banerjee, meantime. He's not cooperating in any groups. He's just working his way through, and he's up to 19th place now.
Yeah, definitely a real split in the groups, and you see this, the Proline Esports team seem to have all found each other from the grid here, and it's being held very, very tightly. But just ahead, De Bono has finally made the move. He's come up the inside of Roberts in turn 1 and has made it through. So Roberts just giving that one up. I don't know whether this is to allow De Bono a shot at the Team Max Boost entries, but yeah, De Bono has managed to get through there. So we continue with a slightly different order as we hit the hairpin. Watch De Bono look to make a move here.
Yeah, it's going to be a look, but no, again, well, let's see. I'm getting the feeling that these guys are actually cooperating to try and keep the others at bay now, because that second group has got quite cooperative. Brody McConkey leading the way ahead of Borg and Tixera. They're all teammates, which does help. But I think there's a real race on between those guys just to try and keep each other at bay for the moment, as Milne and Parks go down, and there's contact. Top Parks down the inside of Milne, who goes off into a spin. And in sympathy, Patrick Savina also goes for a spin. William Fraser went through the gravel avoiding as well. That was a big mess down at Siberia.
Not unusual, though, for that to happen through that particular part of the circuit. It's just again, the camber here at Phillip Island can be absolutely wicked if you don't quite nail your line, and a little bit of contact never helps that either.
Certainly not. As they come down the front straight, they are going side by side now for 6th, by the way, so maybe the cooperation I was talking about is, well, turns out not to be true. And same at the front as well, as Colangelo is finally attacked by De Bono down at turn 2, and the teammates might have seen each other off the road there, not sure, as we just have a look at De Bono here trying to come back through again. Roberts is right in there as well, down in towards turn 4. Colangelo effectively doing a good job for a teammate at the moment, and for the team as a whole, because they want to keep this front 2, and if they can, that'll be a real big thing. And there we go, dives down the inside of your teammate. That's exactly how to defend those positions if your teammates there's another description at the bottom of your screen coming through next of how not to do it, as the teammates battle over 6th place further behind.
Yeah, it's always tight, isn't it? And so often no team orders come into play here. I know there's plenty of teams out there that don't actually set anything in place to prevent their drivers from battling, but when you see them working together like Ryder and Colangelo are clearly doing so well, they can really, really control a race. And De Bono, I think you've got to watch for just a little bit of frustration starting to creep in here. It might lead Dylan De Bono to do something a little silly. The only question will be who suffers from that.
Yeah, it's going to be a big question here to see what the teammates decide to do as well as they go over the line. Colangelo will get past Kane Ryder, and De Bono and Roberts will be pretty close in as well. De Bono's going to try and follow through, and there's the danger if your teammates here. Colangelo getting through is probably a good choice for them though. And now, oh no, he can't protect that place, can Kane Ryder. He gets dived by De Bono, who couldn't quite get through there. He was maybe a bit nervous about the diminishing returns there on the inside of turn 2. And he just backs out of it, but not for long. He'll be on the inside at 3, which is not really a corner, but it gives you the outside for 4. And again, this is where teammates can play into it. Colangelo will stay on the outside to try and keep De Bono at bay. Inside for Kane Ryder. Again, they hold the places, but do they? Inside at Siberia might finally be the opportunity for De Bono to get through. Kane Ryder runs it right round the outside, and they're still side by side coming towards this next super fast flat out section.
Bono is pushing so hard here. I'm not sure where the extra pace has come from, but really taking it to the Team Max Boost entries. Kane Ryder doing absolutely everything they can to just hold him at bay, and just pushes the nose across and shuts the door. There's really only one decent line as you come down loopy heights, and that's enough to see De Bono to the back. But it's only a matter of another corner, and we're back at the turn one shoot, really, where I'm sure we're about to see De Bono have another crack at this.
I've just worked out, by the way, who's the missing one. Scott Pocock hasn't returned from Pokemon. I had to look through the previous race results and do it the old-fashioned way, just see if everybody's here. But yeah, I'm like a teacher, getting my registration in the morning. Anyway, Scott Pocock, who wasn't here. He didn't finish that first race, by the way. Finished a couple of laps down, I think maybe in frustration, has just decided to call it a night early instead of getting into race 2 as well. As we have a look at De Bono again, down towards turn 5, or turn 4 rather. Kane Ryder and Colangelo, both protecting that inside line. Oh, and De Bono there, they're not sure, made a bit of contact. Certainly didn't turn in as early as he could have done. And now Benjamin Roberts gets alongside. Now this battle for third place could really help the teammates even more.
Yeah, you can see Colangelo and Ryder just forcing that position over and over again from De Bono, just really not allowing any space to push in towards the inside of the track. And that is about the only thing keeping Dylan at bay right now. If he's allowed just an extra couple of metres, and this is going to be the trick for him, he needs just that extra couple of metres of clearance and a slightly later brake application to put the nose ahead and really start to charge Sean Ryder, but it's really risking it at most of these hard braking zones. And there we go, Team Max Boost all in for the pit stop.
If you ever wanted to see a coordinated move, there it is. And look at the uncoordination here. De Bono and Roberts immediately go side by side. If they continue this on, they're handing the race to Max Boost at the moment as they come towards turn 1. Roberts and De Bono are shooting themselves in the foot here, or each other's feet. Anyway, into 2. They're still side by side with Roberts on the inside and De Bono locks up. He very nearly got into the grass there on the outside, which would have been even worse for his race, but that's cost them a little bit of time. Now they'll hope that the teammates come out in traffic and they might get their wish here, because Kane Ryder, Colangelo and McGee are not far behind the group with Ben Ryder and William Fraser, and that might not be great news for the teammates who have made that early stop.
Yeah, agreed. It's great to have the team together and be able to really take full advantage of the slipstream and try and just make up a little bit of time, come out well ahead of Roberts and De Bono. But if they're caught behind too much traffic, that is going to be a problem. They do have, though, not too far up the road as we go back. Oh, big moment there for Fraser as that Ben Ryder is running alongside, and Colangelo's already caught up behind the two of them. So we've got 14 Max Boost entries now effectively together. I don't know, though, that Ben Ryder has the pace to really be quite as much help as Colangelo, Kane and Madeline McGee need at this stage. But William Fraser just starting to pull away a little.
So Colangelo effectively let through there. Not sure why a pit stop was so much better, actually, and quicker. 3.9 as opposed to 4.8, 4.7. She's done the maths right, then that's a bit of genius there, because that might just give the gap that is required. If you're out with the slipstream, then you've got a big chance, as William Fraser also comes in. That's also the best news for these guys. And now, as you say, 14 Max Boost drivers running line astern. Actually, at this stage, Roberts and De Bono are going to leave it as long as they can, maybe. We're going to the end of lap 9 now, though, and based on the numbers we were given, they could go maybe another 4 laps in this race before having to make their only pit stop of the day.
Speaking of team lines, check out Proline Esports. Brody McConkie, Miguel Teixeira and Seth Burkhart's getting in the middle of it with Ryan Borg out in front. Looks a little bit out of place in the Tulip Racing colours here, because Proline are absolutely running a pace line at this point, and have been for a number of laps. Nothing to separate them, although again we still see them just almost getting into a little bit of a tussle at most of the corners. I think Borg and McConkie particularly guilty of just having a little bit too much friendly fun perhaps between the teammates.
Yeah, it's costing them, I think, here today, unfortunately. They'd have just got into line a little bit better, then it might have been a bit easier, but not for the moment. That's not the way they're going about it, as now they come into pit lane. There's some teamwork coming in together. Although, off, and going to be in the wall here. Oh my word! That's in the fence, surely, was it, from Roy Borg at the front of that group?
We don't have a camera there to see it. It looks like they're all moving. I think they're all okay, but gee, that would have been a scary moment.
How did he get away with that? I'm sure there's a wall to collect you there. Although, admittedly, I only watch generally from TV cameras. I'm not entirely sure where the wall is. There he goes for his very short fuel fill. But normally, when you end up on the grass like that, especially on sort of a ridge like that, where the road really drops off down onto the grass, you normally go skating straight into the wall. But he looks to have got away with that.
Look, pure luck at this point. Once you're on the grass there, you are along for the ride. So yeah, just counting the lucky stars, I think, at Proline Esports, that they are not down a car right now.
Yeah, I think they are pretty lucky for that one. As came rider Madeline McGee down towards turn 4. They're just about in the slipstream of Colangelo, who leads this race effectively at the moment. But whether Roberts and De Bono are going to be ahead of them when they come out is remains to be seen, really. First lap time fresh out the pit lane, and to be fair, Colangelo was slower than Roberts and De Bono, who De Bono, by the way, set a personal best last time round, which was 4/10 quicker than Colangelo. And now, after that lap, one of them anyway decides to come in. This will be quite telling.
Absolutely. Roberts ducking into the pits now, so keep your eye on that pit lane distance as this group start to get closer. Roberts heading in, not to the pit bay yet, but watch the bottom of the screen and we'll see just how quick this stop is. Keep in mind that Colangelo spent 3.92 in the bay, 4.18 for Roberts, so another very, very quick stop. Is it going to be quick enough to get out and get up to speed?
Well, Burkhart's is going to plummet through the field, of course, but it looks like Roberts has got enough to get up to speed here before Colangelo gets to him. This is worrying signs for this group. I thought Max Boost had played a blinder by coming in together like that, but they're in real trouble here. 9/10 of a second up to Roberts, who, if he can break the slipstream, will be out clear on his own. Now, you'd get the feeling as well that De Bono has to respond now, since he's on his own, but I guess Roberts is as well, but it would be safer, I think, for De Bono to come into pit lane now and try and come out right behind Roberts, which is where he was before these pit stops at the front of the field.
Yeah, you'd have to think that De Bono's seen that and sees the opportunity to come out ahead as well. The only question will be whether there's enough of a gap to slot into there. It's not a lot of room, but it's certainly more than De Bono had over any of the Team Max Boost entries when they did peel off and go in for that team pit stop just a few laps ago. Right now, Ben Roberts really, really well situated. Dylan De Bono continues to press on, so keep your eye on that one. It'll be a question of whether he can maintain that gap to Ben Roberts. If that starts to fall, surely De Bono has to make the decision to come in.
I think, it's not a bad call now that Roberts is on his own. He's not got any help from slipstream as Roberts at the moment. And De Bono, don't forget, will have less fuel on board, so might have a better chance at going quicker. Last time round, though, was a 29.6, and that's not really quick enough, I'm afraid, on that last occasion, especially when you consider Madeline McGee and Kane Ryder with both personal bests. In fact, McGee setting the best lap of the race overall that time round, a 28.9. They just need to replicate that now to try and catch up to Roberts, but that's going to be very difficult. It's a lot harder for the first driver in the group to set that kind of time.
Yeah, and at this point, you'd have to think that Colangelo, Ryder and McGee are, I don't know, just perhaps a little under the weather about the fact that you can't really bump draft in an F4. That'd be ideal for Team Max Boost right now. This lineup of three, if they could push the car along in front without causing damage, I can guarantee they'd be doing that right now, because that's what it's going to take to catch Ben Roberts, who continues to extend that lead. Just a 10th here, a 10th there. But already out to a second and a half, and that's very, very difficult to catch here at Phillip Island.
Yeah, it's looking better and better for Roberts as this goes on here. As Dylan De Bono comes in at the end of 13 laps, as expected, this is the maximum. And so Tristan McLaren, Mitchell halfway, and Seth Burkhart's the only other driver. Oh no, Burkhart's has been in, I think, but maybe it was a drive-through. I don't know. Anyway, those who haven't been in so far will have to come in now. As you see this massive group further back, this is where the racing is going to be later. But who's going to be leading? Dylan De Bono comes in. He stops for 4.3 seconds. It's 2/10 longer than Benjamin Roberts, who now comes down the front straight and will be close to getting the lead here. And he will fly through. But how big's the gap here? Where's De Bono going to come out? The gap's going to be way over a second. De Bono's going to be behind the Max Boost cars, isn't he? Oh, when he very nearly gets cluttered into there by all of them as they come through. It's going to be a battle for second and amongst these guys, but Benjamin Robertson's going to lead this race. He looks like he's going to go on and win it as well.
Oh, contact with Maddle McGee. De Bono alongside, the wheels come together. De Bono gets away with it. Maddle McGee, unfortunately, flicked off to the side of Southern Loop, just barely recovers the car, and will now try to chase down, but I'm afraid that might be McGee's race done.
Oh, is there suspension damage on that car will be the big question. She's the silver class leader and has still got quite a big gap over Watson, in fairness, so shouldn't be too bad. De Bono's starting to blink really aggressively now as well, which is not great news for him, but yeah, if McGee's damage is there, it's not that bad. And so the Max Boost cars have been split up, but they're only fighting for second now. Colangelo and Ryder have got to just hope they can keep these two podium places and keep De Bono at bay, and I'm not sure they can really hope on catching the race leader anymore.
Sam Kataxinas picks up a meatball. We'll see what's happened here. An off-track recorded, but what's brought about the meatball phone, I'm not sure. It looks like there might have been, a bit of contact there. So the off-track comes, but the damage from that contact with the rear axle has been enough to send Kataxinas in the Velocity SimLab entry back to the pits, try and get that repaired, and have a look at the camber on that front left.
So yeah, just not too bad of contact actually, but seems to have done a sufficient amount of damage to interrupt his race as Ackland goes down the side of Watson here for 10th place in towards turn number 1. That's a good pass for him to work his way forward. Of Watson, who, as I say, is second place in the AM class after winning the first race. Coming into today, by the way, in the championship standings, didn't mention this at the top of the show, but Justin McLaren was leading Todd Parks by only a point in the silver class. Alexei Watson was 17 points further behind, or 18 rather, behind McLaren at the front end of the field. And Madeline McGee was a bit further down, 21st overall, and 23 points off of the 33 points off of the championship lead in the silver class. So very, very early days, and get the feeling so far this season that the silver class drivers haven't really scored very many points because of finishing positions. McLaren's got a top 10, but this is a whole new silver class almost completely that we're looking at here, because they're getting some real top results in the overall standings, not only in the silver class.
And there it is. De Bono gets the 5-second penalty for that incident. I assume with McGee would be my guess. So car 111, the 5-second penalty. Not surprised to see it. What do you say?
I think that's expected, to be honest. When you saw the way the guys were coming through that second corner there, and Domino stuck his nose in a very, very tight gap that was always going to close in the end. When you're in the middle of the corner like that, very difficult to start a move in the way that he did there, so I'm not surprised about that at all. It doesn't stop him getting amongst it though. Ken Ryder has now been demoted. I'm not sure whether those guys are going to actually know about that penalty just yet, but they don't need to worry too much about De Bono. There is incident with car 1, 2, 3, that is Madeline McGee. They certainly don't know about it, because Ken Ryder goes back down the inside straightaway, gets straight back through again.
Made it look relatively easy. De Bono maybe just struggling a little to pull the car up. These three are pushing super hard at the moment. Very surprised actually they're keeping it fairly consistently on track, because they're absolutely trying to use every bit of it. And at this stage, starting to lose a little bit of grip on the outside of his turns as just a little bit of marbling builds up. It's not a place I'd want to find myself if I was Dylan De Bono trying to make the pass here. As we see a little puff of smoke from Colangelo just locking up that unloaded front left on the way down from Lukeby Heights. De Bono's still thinking about this, definitely not backing off despite the penalty.
Well, he's going to fight on anyway. All drivers are notified of penalties before broadcast. There you go.
Yeah, race control keeping us in line. I appreciate that. Big thank you, of course, to Jimmy Peacock for keeping us up to date.
Yeah, and indeed putting us in our place there. Through zone 1, the outside line for Kane Ryder, and he can't get through. He's certainly driving like someone, I would describe anyway, certainly driving like someone who doesn't know about the penalty to the other drivers, but anyway, maybe he's just taking a different philosophy towards it than I would, but anyway, De Bono's going to try and make as many overtakes as he can, and maybe in the hopes that he could pull enough of a margin over these two. I guess if he he stays behind them, they might try and slow him down to get McGee in front, and that's contact. That was contact, and Kane Ryder there doing something very similar to what De Bono did to Martin McGee, actually. So more contacts and more things for race control to just have a key, at least keep an eye on at the moment.
I'm almost loath to look away from this because this is such a great back and forth battle. De Bono and Ryder swapping places just over and over again here. One dropped away and then they'll have another crack at it, but De Bono just almost out of the slipstream behind there is going to have to really fight to get back into it. This is the opportunity to do so, and indeed closes that gap down again, and we'll have another crack at it towards turn 1. But there's some great battles going on right throughout. Synergy Sim Racing, Everything Simulation, and Everything Simulator Racing and Tulip Racing caught up here. Ackland, Donahoe and Mendez all in it as well, with Alexi Watson out in front. These four battling it out. We jump ahead just a little further to Braconchi and Teixeira with Seth Burkhardt as the three head down the front straight. But keep your eye on that timing tower for Colangelo, Ryder and De Bono, because I don't think we've seen the last of that. We're going side by side into turn 1 again.
That's Burkhardt on the inside of Teixeira for 7th, and Daniel Byrne just watching in behind as well, just waiting for his moment. Through turn 2, they will now, it will all happen towards turn 4, let's put it that way. Another flat out section here where drafting important, and here it is for 2nd as well. Ryder on the inside, and very nearly hit his teammate there. He just locked up in a bit of desperation there to try and avoid contact, and they did. In the background again, side by side, but that's Byrne getting through on Burkhardt this time round. Side by side into Siberia, and Byrne will stay in front in 8th place. It's just madness racing around this circuit. You just don't think of it as a draft track, but in these lower powered open wheel cars, it becomes one.
Absolutely does, and Ryder and De Bono again as they make their way up Lukey Heights once more. I'm half expecting De Bono to put a move on down the hill. I think he's got it too well dialed to try anything that silly, but look, we're into the last 3 minutes. I mean, anything's possible. Meanwhile, Ben Roberts, we haven't really checked in on for a while, out to almost 3.5 seconds, quite comfortably leading this race, and barring any incidents, should walk away with 4 points.
At least from race number 2 he will. It's the first time here tonight that somebody other than he has taken a race victory here, so that would have been briefly encouraging to all the others in the field, but it's back to the same old story here in race number 2 as Ryder and De Bono go side by side, very nearly touching wheels there. This battle is only helping Team Max Boost because that penalty for De Bono is meaning he'd be behind Madeline McGee at the moment, as we have a penalty for Kane Ryder now as well. So these two are properly fighting for a position. It was the same thing, I said it at the time, it was very similar, I said at the time, to what De Bono did to McGee, that Ryder did to De Bono, only at a slower speed, and so the consequences were less. But race control don't look at the consequences, they look at the action itself, and the action was the same effectively, same penalty applied. They are racing now for a 4th place.
Well, I mean, that's one way to even the score, isn't it? I'm just glad that it didn't end in tears, and really Ryder very, very lucky that the contact was with the side pod of De Bono's car and not with the tyre. It could have ended with absolute disaster. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen an open wheeler flip with that sort of contact. So a 5-second penalty in the scheme of things, not the worst outcome.
No, but it is going to hand the podium to Madeline McGee as it stands, just under 4 seconds, the gap there as they get over the line. That looks, yeah, it will be the fastest, the final lap, sorry, might not be the fastest lap, will be the final one for Benjamin Roberts, who takes the white flag. Just race control letting us know 5 seconds is the smallest penalty available, so telling us that it's a minor infringement as De Bono goes round the outside of turn 1 to get the inside at turn 2 of Kane Ryder, and there's maybe a bit of contact there. De Bono up to 3rd, of course they will both drop down, and this effectively a battle for 4th between the two of them. A slight bit of contact though, and De Bono looks like he's got that place now.
Yeah, it does look to have it locked away. The question will be whether De Bono can gain another 1.5 seconds to keep McGee out of the podium. I don't see that happening with such a short amount of time left in this lap. It's not impossible, but it's vastly unlikely that McGee's not going to find the podium here.
Yeah, it's not a big gap, not a big enough gap anyway. Mendes and Ackland meanwhile go side by side through Siberia, and that's Mendes up into the top 10. We'll see whether he can keep it as the seconds tick by, and Benjamin Roberts comes towards the final few corners at the moment. He is going to return to winning form again, despite not taking pole position in either of the races here tonight. That's the first time that he's even not taken pole once here in this round. He's taken the race win though in race 2, and that's the important thing. 100 points goes Benjamin Roberts' way as he wins for the 4th time in 5 races in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship here from Phillip Island. It's going to be Colangelo second ahead of De Bono, who is not quite far enough ahead of Madeline McGee, who will get that podium, and perhaps more importantly, this silver class victory as well, to really give her a boost in the standings.
A couple of very tight finishes still coming. Mitchell Hathaway trying desperately to catch Vaughan Ryder, can't quite get there in the end. Todd Parks just behind, only 0.02 of a second in it. A very, very tightly packed couple of race groups going on right across the half-hour race this evening. Honestly, these races are some of my favourites, Ewan, but also some of the most difficult as commentators, because there's so much going on and we want to cover it all at once, but you can't be everywhere.
No, absolutely not. But that's what you get from Phillip Island. It is so busy around this racetrack in these type of cars. It is fantastic racing. Bit of a shame we didn't get battle for the win like we did in race 1, maybe in race 2. But can't criticise anybody for that. He's just got to compliment Benjamin Roberts for being so fast.
Yeah, and once again, Ben Roberts just really showing that he's going to be very, very hard to beat in this season. Colangelo, look, were it not for getting caught up a bit, I think, with Ryder and De Bono and all of that, certainly had fairly similar pace. I mean, their best laps actually matched, and so I wonder if it's just a case of finding a track that Ben Roberts is less comfortable with. Maybe that's the secret, because Roberts certainly didn't have the fastest lap by some way. Kane Ryder was a 29 flat, Madeline McGee a 28.93, Ben Roberts 29.18. So there's a little glimpse of a human weakness in some of Ben Roberts' pace, but certainly not much of it.
Absolutely. It is a very, very strong start to the season from Benjamin Roberts, who parks up on the front straight, and we'll celebrate another victory here in the Everything Simulated F4 Championship. Let's have a look at the final race results from race number 2. It will show that 100 points will go his way as he extends his ever-increasing championship margin over Oisin Colangelo, who finishes second. Again, another top 5 from her, and 2 podiums tonight. Actually gets the most points of anybody when you look at it overall. Dylan De Bono rounds out the podium with Kane Ryder next, and then Madeline McGee, although De Bono and Ryder will drop 5 seconds each. Add that to their race time, and that promotes McGee to a podium. Brody McConkie finishes 6th, but Miguel Teixeira, who I suspect might be signed as golds, but I'm not going to speak for Race Control. Daniel Byrne will be in 8th ahead of Seth Burkhartz, with Nico Mendes rounding out the top 10. Daniel Ackland's just a couple of attempts behind that in that big group, actually, along with Alexi Watson, the race 1 silver class winner, and Tom Donoghue. Richard Paggi got up to 14th after starting from the pit lane. Decent effort from him, just to get ahead of Vaughan Ryder. Also in that group was Mitchell Hathaway and Tristan McLaren, the silver class leader coming into tonight's round. David Besnard at Todd Parks and Ryan Borg rounded out the top 20. 21st went to Stephen Bull ahead of Angus Milne. Then it was William Fraser with Ben Ryder, Patrick Savina, the last driver on the lead lap. Kat Kazinos dropped a couple of laps in the end. Disconnection for Thomas Hinds. Ian Dew seemed to disappear as well with 18 laps left very early on in that race, unfortunately for them. But they should get a couple of points for their efforts, despite the fact they didn't complete the race. Let's have a chat now to race 2 winner Benjamin Roberts, then, who can now join us. Benjamin, congratulations on race 2 victory. We'll start with that here tonight. 3.7 seconds you gap at the line again. How pleased are you to have bounced back in race number 2 and get back to winning ways that you've started this season with?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much. Couldn't do much about the first race with the Max Reese cars, playing some team games. Yeah, just had nothing for them. Second race, it was going to be a different story with the pit stops. I think also probably actually pit entry was maybe the big sort of factor there. I made sure I did plenty of practice on that, so I know I nailed it. And then, when I came out of the pits, I was really glad to see they were just on the edge of draft range, but at that point, I mean, draft doesn't really do a lot, so it was quite easy to pull away after that.
Let's just talk a little bit about how maybe you can race as sort of a lone driver in amongst teammates as you were in that first race. What is there things you could? Is it something you have to sit back at the end of the race and accept that actually you couldn't have done anything more about that battle for the lead that we saw in race 1, or is there something different now, having experienced that you would have maybe done differently, or something that you were trying to do during that first race to try and get in amongst the teammates?
I think in the heat of a moment, it can be difficult to judge that sometimes. Of course, I'll have a look back at it later and see if there was something I could have done differently. With the feature race, it's a little bit different. I mean, saving tyres and just conserving the car to begin with, and knowing that I probably had a little bit of sort of solo pace advantage after the pit stops, which seemed to be a thing at Motegi. So I wasn't too worried for the feature race about the team games.
Well, congratulations on bouncing back in race 2 with your 4th victory of the season, and thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us at the end as well.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. That is Benjamin Roberts, race 2 victor here tonight from Phillip Island. Race 1 winner, Oisin Colangelo, 2nd place in race 2, can now join us now as well. Oisin, congratulations on scoring, I believe anyway, the most points out of anybody today. I'll have to check that, but you're certainly going to be close up there. Let's start with the victory in race number 1. You must be delighted to get on that on the winning run now at the first race tonight. How was that first race, battling in such a tight group for such a short first race, of course?
Yeah, I think it might have thrown a few people off with the short time we had, but yeah, I was just sitting behind the front 2 waiting for an opportunity, saw the white flag and I was like, yep, this is it. Bit of help from my teammate as well. Made the race quite well, and it's always good to have a teammate that you can work with in the race, as well as the feature race. We were trying to do a bit of that as well.
Yeah, I wanted to chat to you a little bit about your strategy, because it was very noticeable that Team Max Boost cars all came in together, as all teammates do generally around a circuit like this, but it was noticeably earlier than a lot of the other teams and a lot of the other single drivers who were out there on their own, like De Bono and Roberts, came in a little bit later. What was the thinking behind an earlier pit stop for you guys?
Well, if we knew if we together would still have a bit of tow, but unfortunately Kane must have had a slow start because he dropped a bit, and then kind of made it a bit more difficult. And those few attempts that we lost when the front guys had that tow is, I guess, what made the difference in the end. And then without the tow, Ben was just a bit untouchable.
It's certainly difficult for everybody, but congratulations either way on getting your first victory of the season here tonight in race number 1, and thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us at the end as well.
Thank you.
So much. That is Oisin Colangelo, the 2nd place driver for race number 2, but perhaps more importantly, 1st place driver from race 1 here tonight. Madeline McGee took the victory in silver as well as a podium here tonight in race number 2. Madeline, welcome in. Congratulations on the class victory and an overall podium as well after the penalties applied to those couple of drivers in front of you. Talk to us a little bit about race number 2, how you found that one, because for the most part you were in that front group battling away for the victory alongside your teammates. How was that second race?
Yeah, I think it was pretty good. Qualifying, got a really good tow off teammates for one of the laps, and that got me up to 4th or 5th or whatever it was. And then in the race, it was just after not getting crashed into in lap 1, it's just hold the slipstream and take it easy until there was an incident on, I don't know what lap it was, but that turn 2 incident, which, still didn't change things in the end, but could have been worse. Didn't get any damage luckily.
Well, yeah, that was the fear that I had certainly seen that incident, whether there was going to be any damage. But in the end, you did get that podium back again. How realistic do you think it is that you can compete at the top of the silver class all season long? We're only 3 rounds in, but we've not really seen drivers scoring points on in an overall context quite as much as what the silver class drivers were able to do as a whole this time round. Do you think you can compete for that title in the silver class this season?
I hope so, but I might miss a couple of rounds with pre-booked snow trips, so I'll try my best in the races I can do, and I'll just have to push for more and more higher placements, top 10s or something to get a chance, I guess.
Well, absolutely, we'll see. But thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us here tonight, and congratulations on silver class victory in race 2 as well.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. That is Madeline McGee in the 3rd place overall silver class winner here as well. It's been a big day for the silver class drivers actually in terms of overall points, scoring a lot between them, and that is going to throw the championship on its head there. Overall, the championship hasn't been particularly thrown on its head, I've got to say. Benjamin Roberts should still lead this championship by some way, although Oisin Colanso has very much stopped that gap extending at the amount that it was to this point. But it was very telling, Jared, that when Benjamin Roberts got on his own, he was still quicker than the rest. The draft very much helping the rest of the pack here in race number 2 until they weren't helped by the draft anymore, and there you can see the results. 3.7 seconds. When he was on his own, he was absolutely flying.
Yeah, and it's something we expected from Phillip Island, really, isn't it? If you fall out of that draft, it's very, very hard to get back on, because there just isn't the tight and twisty sections where you've got the opportunity to make up the time. It really does rely on you staying in that formation line. The Team Max Boost entry is doing a fantastic job of trying to capitalise on that, but ultimately the gap just ended up too big with the interference of Dylan De Bono in their plans. There was nothing they could do to just stick with Roberts, and once again we see Ben Roberts taking the win here. Look, they were close. I think they were close to a strategy that would have allowed them to really challenge Roberts right throughout. And had it not been for just perhaps a little bit of back and forth there with De Bono, I think they might have had a shot at sticking with him, and we could have had quite easily a very, very different result. Maybe not in terms of position, but certainly in terms of gap out to the race leader.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens next time out. Of course, at Okayama, with regards to that, we're another sprint round in 7 days' time. 15 minutes and 30 minutes for each races. As we didn't quite have tonight, but that should be the way going forward. They're starting for round 4. In fact, we've still got plenty of sprint racing to come, actually. 3 rounds out of the final 5 are sprint rounds, starting from next week. So I very much hope you can join us then. For now, though, this has been the Everything Simulated F4 Championship here live from Phillip Island, supported, of course, by Play One Team Gear, but also supported alongside with Capstone Marketing and Print Racer. We'll be back same time, same place in another 7 days' time with that next race from Okayama. Sprint racing returns once again. I've been Ian O'Leary alongside Jared Cole here tonight, and until we see you for that 4th round of the championship, it's goodbye for now.